Well, as you can see, Mark's mower's back in the shop. Um, that tire kept going flat, so got myself a big glug of slime and slimed all the tires, drank a bunch of bourbon, ripped around the neighborhood for half an hour last night, and I checked tire pressure and see if everything held. I put 20 in the front and 13 in both back tires. They're only supposed to be 14 and 10, but I figured with it trying to seal a leak, it's better to put just a little bit extra in there. Really force that slime through the cracks. And if they're still holding air, I'll let them out to what they're supposed to be. That tire also goes dead flat, but you can never tell. It goes down to like 3 psi, but you can't really tell just because it's like a bias ply or something. That tire's perfect, and that one's pretty good. But we'll check on that. Anyway, the main reason it's here was that tire, but since I went through, all the effort of hauling the thing 50 miles here, I'm going to make a concerted effort to try and put on that main drive belt that I lazily didn't do last time. And I'm also going to grease the mower spindles because somehow I missed those last time. Like, I looked for them, but I had the deck upside down, and I was looking underneath for them for some reason, and didn't find them. And then it just didn't occur to me to look on top. I don't know. The reason why this tire is leaking is just because it's dry rotted. See all those cracks? All those cracks in the tread? I stuck the thing in a wheelbarrow full of water and put a cinder block on it. It was just leaking out of all over the tread. Had a couple of pinholes out of this crack that I've lost, out of these cracks. It holds air for 3 weeks before it finally gets down to flat, and it's a $35 tire, plus I have to mount and dismount it. It's just not worth it. So for $30 I bought a gallon of slime, because this thing was going to need 2 of the $9 cans, so I figured, man, screw it, pay an extra $12 and then I get to keep the rest. Oh yeah, it's right what I expected, 18. That's 18 and a half, so I'd say that's fixed. Here's the one that only had a slight leak. I put that at 13, and still says 13 to me. Well, I think it said 12, but you get what I mean. I think that one was actually better than the other one. But anyway, that pump on the 1 gallon thing of slime is a piece of shit. Alright, so we're going to get under the mower and see how this belt is routed. And I'm hoping this should be fairly easy. I'm sorry I can't show you this very well. I basically have to lay the phone on the ground to be able to, show you the underside of this, because this just has such a narrow field of view. Let's get the flashlight on it. So anyway, there's the clutch right there, and it goes over the top of the clutch, so I need to disconnect this wire right here to get the belt under that. And then I believe I need to need to disconnect one of those ball joints, probably that one down there, because it's easier to get to, so I can get it over that. And it comes back this way. I need to disconnect that spring, which I'm sure will be fun. And then I need to feed it all the way back over there, over the top of the fan. Alright, I really did not like how those jack stands felt, and this thing's got lots of really sharp hard angles and pokey bits that if it falls off the jack stands, it will kill me. So I just put 2 cinder blocks under the wheels, and the jack stands are just kissing. So if one of those cinder blocks implodes, I still have the jack stand. And I'm not relying on those Harbor Freight jack stands anymore that are way too close to the center of the axis. Okay, sorry about the angle, but I'm like a foot away from this thing. That's just the way the camera works, but that wasn't too bad. So what I did is I just took one claw hammer, hooked it onto the bottom of the spring, and then I hooked another claw hammer onto the bar and just pulled in opposite directions, and that really came out with not much trouble at all. Of course, nothing in life can be easy. It looks like I'm going to have to take both of these idler pulleys off because they've got anti-jump thingies, whatever they're called, keeps the belt from coming off. And that one's really big and way too tight. And that one is extremely tight. Come on, camera. That one is extremely tight, but I could bend it, but I'm not going to. because since I have to take one off, I might as well take both off. So I'm going to go get some liquid wrench on these, and then bust out the impact gun, and hopefully don't ruin everything. Oh yeah, while I'm under here, here's all of that redneckery I did last time to remount this, I don't know what you would call it, the pedal plate for all the linkages to go back to the transmission. I was telling you they were all seized. Those are the bearings. They were seized shut, and the whole floor was rotten out, so I replaced everything with regular bolts and put some mounting plates in there, as you can see, and then I had to replace those bolts up at the front as well because they were totally rotten out. And she's holding up pretty good. Shouldn't even look rusty. The galvanizing's holding. Neat. Here's the other side. Nice and rusty. That's where your feet go. Yeah, so I put a big honking washer on there and then just torque that down, and that's nice and solid. Ugh, dirt in my mouth. Okay, put a squirt of liquid wrench on it. I mean, it's not really going to do anything in 10 minutes, but, you know, it helps clean up the threads whenever the bolts back off. Interestingly, these are 15 millimeter. Not really certain why they're 15 millimeter, but they're 15 millimeter. I would have gone with 5/8, but whatever, John Deere. So we're gonna give these some torque and hope they come off. I don't think they're gonna come off. Shit. Alright, time to get the breaker bar. There. No match for the breaker bar. Get that core work out. Alright, so I got the belt off the tensioners, and all I did was I took the bolt off, but I don't think I needed to. I think you could put them down to just the last like 2 or 3 threads, and then you get just enough slop that you can wiggle it around and pop these off. You may have to take that one off, but I got those off, and I didn't have to pull them off of the undercarriage either. However, we have a new problem. We have like no slop. I don't have anything close to what's needed to get it off of the clutch. So instead, what I'm going to do is have to pull the entire pan off the top and move the fuel tank so that I can get to that and probably pull that fan off and then pop this off of that pulley, thread the new one on, and then put it all back together. Great. So we're playing mechanics Legos here, and we're going through the toolbox of hell trying to find metric sockets, because I do not have a metric socket set here in this garage for some godforsaken reason. It's in the back of my dad's car. I didn't want to use the little crappy Chinese emergency set that's in my car, so I'm going through here and building a metric socket set, because apparently everything on this John Deere is metric for some godforsaken reason. But here we have a 13, which is what I need, and a 14 just in case that's actually what I need. And there's my metric sockets, and there's my SAE sockets, and I'm building myself a set right there, plus deep wells. And I'm going to try and organize that. Alright, and like that, I have the 13 I need. I've managed to complete most of a metric socket set. I've got a 4, a 4.5, a 5, a 5.5, a 6, a 6.5, a 7, an 8, a 9, a 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, this weird-ass, like, acorn 15, a 17, a 19, and a 24, and then I have a deep well for a 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 17, and 19. I got 2 quarter-inch adapters, a mystery socket that has absolutely nothing printed on it, and looks to be like a 1/4 inch or something, a bushing. 2 of whatever the hell these are. I don't know what kind of fastener that's for. It's like a winged hex nut. And everybody's missing 10 and 12 millimeter socket. I've probably got 35 10 millimeters in there. So if you're missing one, I stole it. Fuck you, you can't have it back. So yeah, we're going to go take the pan off of the mower now after that little side quest. Well, those took a breaker bar too. These are like a 12 3/4 or something. They're just ever so slightly bigger in a half and ever so slightly smaller in a 13. Alright, now that I got the butt bolts off, I'm just going to pull this out. Takes a good bit of elbow grease to get it off, but also don't worry, it's got a D-axle on it, so you can't put it on wrong, which is a nice touch. And I'm going to pull the gas cap off too. Set that aside. And I'm going to see if that's enough for me to get this up and mess with that clutch. Oh, looks like I got to take the shifter head off too. Fantastic. This was 5/8, and I had to fight with that lock nut a good bit in order to get it to come off, but she came off with a little bit of elbow grease. Alright, I'm gonna have to take that nut off too. Good God. Alright, I was hoping I wouldn't have to, but it looks like I did. So I've just peeled back this and I've pulled off both of the mounting bolts, and I didn't show you that because I've got a weird setup and I don't want to confuse you. But I pulled off those two bolts, which now frees this entire thing, and I'm going to lift the entire pan off. Also what I did, because I don't want to disassemble this whole pedal system, is I pulled off that cotter pin right there that you can't see, which connects the pedal linkage. So then I can just pull that out with the whole linkage and then not have to pull that contraption off that I've got bastardized in there. Alright, so that's off, and that fought, and that's pretty heavy, and that's going to be fucking fun to put back on because it really likes to rub on that thing. I might be able to put that the deck lever back down and get it to fit on there easier, but I basically had to pick it up and then roll it off like this, and that's why it's sitting there. I also unplugged the butt sensor as well. Okay, good Christ, this is turning into one of those nightmare jobs. So, I can't get to the pulley well enough to figure out what the hell I'm doing, or if I even have enough slop, or to try and even pull that fan off. And in order to do that, I got to get the fuel tank out of the way. And so what I had to do was I had to pop out this little metal clip that was buried down in here. It held the fuel line and the butt sensor in place. And in order to be able to rock the fuel tank up to lift it out through here so I can then just, set it over there, I'm going to take these two 10mm bolts off. Or at least I got to take one of them out and then loosen the other one so I can rotate this bar right here out of the way. Oh, God. Fun. Alright, well that's out of the way. Loosen that bolt, and when you know it, it's like one of the 3 bolts on the entire tractor that isn't a carriage bolt in the one time I needed it. So I had no room to, I had no room to get a socket on here. I had just barely enough to get the breaker bar with the 10mm on it just to break the torque off of these. And then to do all of this with a wrench. And then I had to get in here and then hold one side, which I only have, that much room, and my hand's only that wide. So that was a pain, but I finally got that off. And then fuel tank rocks down, and then back, and then comes off, and then you set it the hell out of the way. And it's looking like I have just barely enough length to get that over that pulley, which means I'm going to have to pull this fan off, which I didn't want to have to do. But we're going to, so we're going to try and break that nut free on top of the transmission, and hopefully it's not on with umpteen thousand ugga chuggas. That was actually easier to take off than the idler pulleys, surprisingly, and I am noticing that there is just a wee bit of wiggle in here. Not a terrible amount, maybe 1 degree. But yeah, I don't even need a gear puller for this, so that makes that easy. I can just pop this swoosh right off, and there's our belt, free, hopefully. So, now we can take the belt off. Alright, the belt is mostly off now. This pulley right here fought me. It's probably easiest just to pull it off, but I have it backed out of here just enough that I was able to just sort of slap it around, show it who's boss, and get it to come off. And the last thing we got to do is we got to pull that ball joint off, which hopefully isn't going to be a nightmare. I think it looks like it has flats underneath it for me to grab it, so I don't think it should be too bad. So I just got to weave this around this jack stand. Okay, so the ball joint's off. that is a 16 on the bottom of the ball joint, and the nut is a 19, or as we say in American, 5/8 and a 3/4. So just boop, and the belt comes off. Bam! It only took like 3 hours of my time. Actually, I'm getting paid to do this, so 3 hours of my employer's time. And now we just have to hope that this belt Mark gave us is actually the right size. Otherwise, all of this was for nothing. And when you know it, they're not even fucking close. That was a goddamn deck belt. Thanks, Mark. He even told me to replace that belt. So anyway, we're going to go to Tractor Supply and hope to Christ they have one of these so I can at least put a new belt on there. That one doesn't look bad. I was just going to do it because he told me to. But, you know, he didn't get the right belt. So we're going to go find the right belt and we're going to put that on there. I might go to the local small engine place and see if they have a pulley too. Probably don't. But, you know, I can always look. They won't, so I'm not going to look. But I'm going to go find the correct belt. Don't know what size that is. Looks like 80 inches or something. Anyway, and if not, I'm just going to put the belt back on. And no loss to you, because now you know how to take a belt off. And great. Good for you. Just so that I keep my momentum, we're going to grease up the old lube zits. And it looks like today is a day where the grease gun does not need to be bled, so I take that as a good omen. I don't know how much these take, but I'm just going to do it till I feel like quitting. God damn, I fucking hate grease guns. Jesus fucking Christ. Every single time it's a goddamn nightmare. Never buy these little baby ass grease guns. Holy fuck, that much grease was behind the fucking plunger. Yeah, about half of the brand new fucking tube I went in there goes behind the plunger, so I have to pull the plunger all the way back and squeeze it out the fucking grease asshole on the back of the thing, and then trying to fight this fucking tube out is impossible, so now I'm just gonna have to pack everything back in there just to try and, you know, get all of the fucking grease I paid for, because I just replaced this fucking Saturday. God, I hate these fucking... Okay, spindles are greased. They ate the entire grease gun. So, that's all they're gonna get. Hungry things. Guess it's time to go find a belt. I think this is like a 90-inch belt. Something close to that. So let's see what they got. Perfect. Well, we've been all over hell and back, but we got a belt. Turns out this is an 89 and 3/4, 5/8. Let's see. Went to Tractor Supply. They don't sell anything over 50 inches. Went to the local small engine place, and the dude behind the counter was no help. They do that thing that every small engine place or hardware part store does. Whenever you say, hey, I need this very specific thing, they spend 10 minutes punching away at their computer, looking confused and totally disinterested, and then they go in the back and they say, we got this thing, but it's not right. We don't have that. They didn't make no extra effort to get your business, so you say, alright, cool, yeah, whatever, fuck off, bye. And so I went to Lowe's, and there we are, 5/8 and 90. It's 1/4 inch larger, but that's probably stretched out more than that, so it'll work. Also, I got myself some Gatorade, and my favorite flavor is the windshield wiper fluid flavor. Not a big fan of the antifreeze flavor. The distilled water flavor is pretty good too. So is the Dexcool flavor, but I like windshield wiper fluid the best. Alright, well, it's actually like an 89 or an 88 inch belt, even though when you look up the fucking John Deere part number, I think it's like M127523, whatever, I'll put it here if it's wrong. It says it's an 89 and 3/4 inch belt, and so I bought a 90 inch belt because it should only be that much longer in circumference, and it's like a full like belt width wider. So that's really like an 89 or like an 88 inch belt, which is really annoying, but I'm just going to put it on there and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then we're going to go back and we're going to swap that for another belt. And if they don't have another belt, we're just going to return it and then run the old one. Well, I went all over hell and back again, and we're going to put the old belt back on. Turns out that 90 I bought is just... ever so slightly too big. I can get it on there. If I was in a pinch, I could make it work, but the tensioner is basically bottomed out, so it's not going to take out all the slop, and it's just going to be worse than the old belt. So in order to remedy that, I bought lunch to help me forget about this wasted day. And we're going to put this goddamn tractor back together, having improved absolutely nothing in the process. Dale's is a pretty good pale ale. It's not the best, but it's pretty good. Alright, so this is how you install your new belt. And ignore the fact that I have the same belt that you just watched me take off. You just shove the majority of the belt under the tractor, put a loop over the ball joint on the steering, take your flip-flops off, move your gas can sufficiently out of the way, crawl your sorry ass back underneath the lawnmower, put one end up here over the clutch and around that plug, then take your other end, then thread it through this bar right here, which might be difficult if you haven't loosened the pulleys. And none of this will be in focus for the camera because you're too close to the bottom of the tractor and your phone doesn't like that. And then push that end over here on top of the transaxle. Alright, and a lot of this is going to fight you. That's normal. Don't worry about it. Alright, so once you've smacked the hell out of your head on the bottom of the tractor trying to get out, get your gas tank back out of the way. And if you can, thread this back over the pulley, but you're probably not going to be able to. So take your pulley off, and then put the belt on the pulley. And listen to your dog whine. And then when you're like me and you'd have not enough slop for some reason, go down there and just fiddle with the belt and move it off of stuff. It's probably the engine pulley. Yeah, it's the engine pulley not being on because it doesn't like to stay on. So make sure the engine pulley is in the proper place, and then you should have plenty of slack to grab this and get it caught on all the body bolts, and then line that up right over the spindle, which I don't because it's obviously hung up on something else again, because why wouldn't it be? Nope, no, it's just this pulley coming back off because it wants to. It's a free spirit. Okay, now that you put the engine pulley back on again, now you have plenty of room, so just make sure you line up your splines. There you go. And now you can seat that bolt home. Alright, so the order of operations for putting the fan back on is fan, washer, nut, torque. I'm going to leave it there because it came off with the impact gun, so I don't think I need to put any more torque on it than what the impact gun can do. Okay, so make sure your tensioner is out and stick the back side of the belt on there. Then the front side of the belt needs to go behind this, which I have this loose, so I have plenty of room to do that. Then make sure it's set. You can make sure you got the extra slack, and then the next thing is to get this third idler on, and you want to make sure that this belt guide is on the outside on the driver's side, and if you've got yours loose like mine, you can just lift that up, get it out of the way, and stick the belt back on it, and then tighten up these nuts. They're held on by carriage bolts, so you need to be pulling down and make sure the carriage bolt seats, and then once you get it hand tight, you should just be able to come in here and apply some torque and get her to set. And she was on here with probably 50 to 70 foot-pounds, but that's probably mostly rust. I think you're probably good with 50. And there you go. The belt's routed. Now I'm going to torque both of those back down, and then we'll put the tensioner spring back on. We got the pulleys nice and torqued, and I only managed to drop the 3-pound breaker bar right onto the bridge of my nose, but luckily I'm wearing safety glasses because I hate getting sand in my eyeballs when I'm working underneath something, so that absorbed the impact, and I'm not bleeding all over the place with a broken septum. And we're going to put the spring back on, and the way I like to do this
is just come up over yonder, set of vice grips, lock her on, get this bar as far over as you can, and then just use two hands, which you can't do while filming, and pull right there on the frame, and then pull with this arm and just seat her home. And there we go. And if it looks like your spring's not quite seated, just give her a little tap and she'll slide into place. And yeah, that new belt head, like, I could press this against the outer frame. It's not a 90-inch belt. It's like an 88 or 89. So make sure you get the right belt when you're doing this. John Deere measures theirs by outside circumference, and you know, most sane people do inner circumference. So that belt I bought was a 90-inch inner circumference. And once you've got your belt installed, don't forget to plug the clutch back in. And then make sure the little clip goes into its home up here on the frame. Bam. That's the belt. It's in. Now you just got to put all the other shit back into place that you had to remove in order to get to the belt. Wonderful. First up is going to be that ball joint. Ball joint's back on. Once again, it's a 16 millimeter on the bottom and a 19 millimeter on the top, but because I'm an American, that means it's a 5/8 on the bottom and a 3/4 on the top. Anyway, next is the gas tank. So it's these things that need to go under these things so that they can sit on these things. Same over here. So should just pull it back, which is very hard to do one-handed, and then slide it under. Stand by. Right, there we go. Turns out this arm moves, which I didn't know about. Looks like that is on this support down here, so when you loosen that, you also loosen this. So that makes it really easy. I didn't notice that before. I must have just pushed it out of the way. So yeah, you just push that forward and then you slide that end over, get it up, set that one down, put that back, lift this back up, and then you need to put that 10 millimeter bolt back in, down in there. Alright, so that 10 millimeters back in. Luckily it's the flange head kind that seats itself, so you don't have to put a wrench on the nut on the backside. You just have to get on the head of the bolt. And next we're going to route the fuel line back into this little trench right here where it wants to live, and put its little clip back in right there. Then we're going to take the ass sensor and thread that back in right over here. Anyway, I don't think it really matters which side is which, but there's a little spot in there where this clip goes in and seats and holds everything in place, and I'm going to figure that out real quick. Alright, wires are clipped back in place. Remember to put your trans oil reservoir back where it needs to be, and we're going to try and put the bed on. And to do that, you're going to have to take your gas cap back off, and what I'm going to do is pitch it up like this and then roll it over and drop it, and you're going to need to thread this thing back through, which shouldn't be too much of a problem. You need to thread that through there, and the real fun part is going to get the ass sensor back through that hole and then 6 inches over and then out that hole to the bottom of the seat. Alright, and that seems to have gone on mostly without pain. Having that forward helps. Also, I've had the parking brake on this whole time, which you should if you're putting this thing up on its back wheels, which helps. Yeah, I just came in from the back and slid it in, and that seemed to work. Those two bolt holes line up. Make sure that I put my gas cap back on because I don't want to set myself on fire. Make sure that's through. Make sure this hole lines up. Now it does. And this hole lines up, which now it mostly does. And the last thing you want to do before you forget is connect this linkage back together from your accelerator pedal to the transaxle. And your cotter pin is back through. There we are. Now that you got that on, put your 4 bolts back in and your shifter head back on. And don't forget, put your nubbins back on for your deck height. Alright, well I got these 2 bolts in, and they fought the absolute hell out of me for no discernible reason. broke the cup holder off trying to line the thing up to get both of them to fit. And then I realized I didn't do the butt sensor, so then I had to pull that back off. And stuck the butt sensor through that hole, pushed it through the front, turned it back around, and then grabbed the tab with a pair of needle nose pliers and pulled it up through, snaked it up, plugged it in, cinched both of those bolts down, which want to fight. And if you need to torque on it for leverage, don't torque on the cup holder, torque right here. So 1 foot bolt back on. There's the second foot bolt. Now it's off to the shifter, which is a 5/8, and just spin it back on till it bottoms out. Put on your lock washer, then put on your shifter knob, and then just run that home until it bottoms out, then back it off until it's facing the correct direction. And last but not least, make sure you put your deck height doohickey back on. There she is. You've changed the belt on a GT245. I haven't, but hopefully you have. Yeah, and then the only thing you got to do after this is put your deck back on. I'm not going to show you how to put a deck on because if you're going through this process to change a belt and you can't figure out how to take that deck off, you probably shouldn't be trying to do that. Alright, so real quick, we're going to run down the steps. Step 1, put the front end up on jack stands. Step 2, make sure you're in park. Make sure your deck height is up. And make sure your deck is off. Alright, now that you've done that, I'd say the best place to start is pull your bed off. This guy right here. You got 1 bolt right here underneath the mat. You got another bolt right here underneath the mat. You've got 2 bolts here underneath the seat. You've also got the sensor for the seat. You've got the shifter head. You've got the gas cap. And you have that bottom linkage down there for the accelerator pedal. And you also have the deck height knob, and you got to pull all of those off. And then once you do that, you can lift the back end of the deck up, slide it forward, and bring it off, set it somewhere else. And once you've done that, you then need to remove this bolt right here, which keeps this arm that supports the bed in place and keeps this arm right here that supports the tank in place. You do that, and then this arm comes down that way and this arm goes that way. And then you can take your fuel tank, pitch it up, pull it backwards, shift it off this way, take it out, set it down over there. There's a little clip on there that you have to remove in order to get the fuel line and the butt sensor off of the tank. And then there's another little plastic plug on the fuel line that connects to the frame down there, and you got to remove those as well. And oh yeah, and you also need to detach the transaxle reservoir from the fuel tank before you pull the fuel tank off. And once you've taken the bed and the fuel tank off and gotten that out of the way, you need to come under here and release this little finger, that tensioner right there, that spring off of that arm, and that'll release your tensioner idler pulleys. Then you need to loosen that 15mm nut and that 15mm nut, and just back it off to till you're just on with 2-3 threads, and that'll give you enough play that you can then finagle this belt out from in between all these idler pulleys. Once you've done that, that gives you access to the transmission pulley down there, and you need to pull that 19mm bolt off the top of that, remove the fan, and once you have the transaxle fan off, you then need to pull the pulley off, and once the pulley's off, then you can take the belt off of that. And once the transaxle pulley is off, you can then pull the belt off of the engine pulley. And then you need to snake it out of the idlers up there, and you also need to loosen them so that you can get those belt guides out of the way. Fish it out of there, fish it out from underneath this cross member here, although it's not a cross member, and get it all the way out till here, and then you're going to be trapped on this steering bar. Then you come to the front and you undo this bolt on the ball joint, and that'll drop down that arm and you can slide the belt right off of that. It's a really convoluted process, but that's what you got to do. And then when you got the new belt, you got to do all of that in reverse order. Alright, so as consolation, I put the newer looking drive belt on there that I mistakenly thought was a transmission belt because it looked nothing like the other belts. So that's on there now because it looked much better than that one I swapped it out with before. I was wondering why you gave me a old ass belt. It was because he gave me an old ass belt and a new belt. And then said replace all 3 belts. But yeah, you saw how that went. And there she is. Back to square one. Just a little bit more gassy and a little bit more greasy. But belt's just as squeaky. So yeah, that's been another foray into trying to do something about Mark's mower. Try not to do anything else. I was going to repair the cowl, but I just don't got any steam left in me. It's like 3:30 in the afternoon. I've been at this since 8. Yeah, I'm done. I still gotta load this up in the trailer, haul it 50 miles, dump it off, and then drive another 50 miles back. So enjoy. That's it for today's adventure. So if you're still here, remember, slam on that like button, smash that subscribe. Don't ring the bell though. You don't want to wake anybody up. Plus, I don't know what it does, and it scares me. But yeah, bye. Hey, look what I just learned about farm jacks. I'm a wizard. And that's going to make a horrible noise here in about 3 seconds. No? Wow, that's more controllable than when I do it. Sweet. Well, let's see if she starts at least. Oh yeah, one of these. Stand by. Turns and she still goes forward and she still goes backwards, so that's not anything up too bad. Anyway, hope this helped. Probably didn't. Till next time, Tom out.